All right. Shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well over the flock. Brothers just setting up everything right now. And shalom and salutation to all you brothers out here that's pushing the words of truth and sincerity. We see you. The Most High sees you. And shalom to all the listeners as well. Akim and Aqua pushing this word. We see you. This is a podcast. Yesterday, brothers blessed the channel. We had two Zaquanya in here. And we got two other brothers in here, back in here again. Based on the experience that the brothers shared yesterday. These brothers hit me up, let me know. They also went through the similar situation as far as Greek life go. I just had a video up that was basically let me remove this. I'm hoping you guys don't hear no echo. Let me know how the sound is too, for the people on the comment board. So yeah, these brothers, hit me up, linked up, and they're gonna share as well their history as far as what they know about Greek life. Both of these brothers had cross, and we're gonna continue it because this is a very broad paintbrush as far as how many Jakes has been involved, still involved, or once have been involved with Greek life. The title says CTBC, that means crossing the blazing sands. Is that what it is? Crossing the burning sands.
Yeah,
and I shared with this brother Elamah Shah here from I shared with him today, as well as Gabar Howard, and learn something new. So there's more information to be heard of, and of course, it's a podcast style, so it's definitely going to be more conversation. But we always going to bring out scriptures wherever they come to mind, and so forth and so on. But we also going to just ask questions. Just going to have a regular conversation as well. I wanted to bring something out first and foremost. Can y'all just real quick just introduce yourself and your camp? Yourself, your tribe, and your camp.
Go ahead. Yeah, this is Brother Masha from the GMS Birmingham camp. Masha Bon Yahweh, Bon Yasha.
God, hey, this is Brother Gabar Yahweh, Bon Yahweh, Bon Yasha Allah, from the GMS Hawaii camp.
Khan and Gabar Yahweh is returning. This is your third time up, brother.
Yeah, I didn't even realize. Yeah, that's what I want. Give me a second.
Con. Hey, so I'm gonna get started with this clip. It's a short clip, and it kind of goes into what's going on behind the scenes with Amalek. Being that we in this situation with Amalek going on, and the Kyrie, what it seems to be, a lot of Jakes is waking up to what it is. It's a purposeful hiding of what a lot of our people is waking up to. That they Israelites, that we are the biblical Israelites, which means we ain't black, we not Americans, we not niggas, but we the Lord's chosen. And there's laws, statutes, customs, heritage that come along with that. And our people's waking up. Now you can see at the simultaneous pushing back. And it's Amalek. It's so-called Jewish people pushing back. But I wanted to bring this clip out really fast. Y'all brothers tell me what y'all think about it before we get into it.
Yeah. I can't see the clip yet. Oh, there we go.
Your children, they're being educated in because the Jews, they do finance a lot of the colleges. So the liberal agenda is predominantly dominating all your colleges right now. It's dominating. So your children are coming out of college with this liberal ideology, and and they can't even reason well. They're not even able to reason well. They trying to make men and women equal and the same. Men and women are not the same. They're not the same. And this is only because they have not been taught natural law. They don't know natural law principles. So they come up with ridiculous debates. You know, they say, "Oh, what is this thing they talking about?" What they talking about? There are more than two genders. It's like, it's on, and it's like a common sense. Anybody with common sense knows that the human race can only be propagated by male and female. Male and female is the only thing that there's ever existed in everything in creation is male or female. But they are being taught a different ideology. And the reason for this is because they're trying to institute a new world order. And for there to be a new order, that means the old order has to be destroyed. So you're actually seeing them bringing in, this is all confusion. This is all chaos. They're the architects of chaos. Because you got to turn down the old to bring in the new. Y'all.
All right. Any thoughts on that one? That's clip number 1, by the way. What y'all think about what he just said, man?
So talking about that, I was I had some resources I was pulling up.
Marshall, what you think about that?
I mean, it's facts because because when they bring you through their curriculum, basically it's just based off of what they condition. They basically condition you to how to think. They brainwash. Well, I wouldn't say brainwash, but they condition the people that go there to think a certain way, and which is basically just a milling of the mind. Basically just saying that once you come in to their classes, coming into the college curriculum, basically anything that you present, basically they just they just throw it, I don't say throw it to the wayside, but they just like challenge you like full blast on what how you thinking, and basically they take away having common sense,
Yeah.
Because now today's time, there's a saying that goes, common sense is not so common anymore, and there's a reason why, because they go to these colleges, thinking that it's gonna be all peachy keen, and all good, but after they finish, come out, even more demonic than they were before, and and they come out, with this, what the guy just said, liberal, mindset, basically just, it puts people in that weak mindset, and that's why a lot of times, it really, when you go through it, it teaches you how to be docile, and to where like, and not thinking for yourself is part of that, being docile, you're more liable to be overtaken by the doctrines that they push to you, and what they teach in schools. And after you come out, you're basically in a docile, weak state, and you're more likely to just take beatings, so to speak, the proverbial beatings, but yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
About Yada?
Yeah, man, it is nothing but conditioning on a higher level. It was a time in this country, and I think some of the elders from the last segment, the first segment about this, we spoke about how when Jake was going to college during that time, especially when these organizations first stood up, it was basically like groups of Jake coming together because they couldn't do it outside of their group because they were going to these predominantly white schools. And over time, you had HBCUs introduced, and they were set up by Edomites. The majority of, if not all, HBCUs were set up by Edomites, and they're there to set up to push the Edomite agenda on a higher level. And I always say, just like anything, Esau uses these so-called schools of thought, colleges, whatever, as sifting grounds for the very charismatic Israelites to the very leadership. So you want charismatic leaders, you want influential leaders, all of that. And why do you want these people? Because you want them to push your agenda. That's why the whole liberal mindset, like on these college campuses, like the gay mindset, that all of that was pushed heavy. And so when these kids leave school, they're coming into the work field, all these other different avenues of life with these scholastic degrees, and people look at them like, well, they're the smartest of our people because they went to college and they got indoctrinated. And so that's why you see a lot of this liberal thought and this liberal mindset being pushed onto our people, especially the young ones. You know what I mean? That's why it's like there's no sweat off a so-called young black man or young Latino man or woman to go to school and to experiment in different types of liberal behavior, whether that be homosexuality, lesbianism, transgenderism, just being a slut. That's what they get into, and they're like, oh, those are my college days, man. But really, that's a lifestyle that they've been brainwashed to accept. Yeah.
Which brings us into, that was great points too. Which brings us into this next clip. This is from a video called "Who Rules America? The Elite and Institutions That Control the United States." It's from 1987. Check out what this guy says here.
60s and the rebellions that were going on in the inner cities, in the ghettos at that time. And that was a number of these institutions of which we're talking, the ghetto, moderate members of the upper class responded to the civil rights movement of the 60s and the rebellions that were going on in the inner cities, in the ghettos at that time. And that was that a number of these institutions of which we're talking decided that they really had to find the best and the brightest of the black community and to educate them so they could be more a part of the corporate structure. And what they simply did was to get money from the Ford and Rockefeller foundations and a couple others, and then to go to leading private schools and say, we want to create a scholarship program for black students. And this program is called ABC, A Better Chance. And literally, over the space then of 10 or 15 years, many thousands of young black students were taken into these prep schools, and then from there went on to major colleges and universities with fellowships. And these people are now out there in their 30s, being the media, being in corporate, working for a corporation. We've interviewed some of these people, and it's very fascinating the way, and it shows you so nicely about class, because these people gradually take on the style and manner of the school in which they were a part. And they tell us, it's very funny that they'll go home and people say, you're starting to talk different. And they say, I go and I like to visit my family, but my other friends, I don't have anything in common with them anymore. And that's what we mean, you see, by then social class. If one has read all about American history and knows about various kinds of arts that most people don't know about, if you've had European vacations, then you want to talk to other people that can talk your language. And gradually then these people come to feel different from the very group that they originally came from. I use this example because I think it is so dramatic in the sense that we're taking very poor people out of a ghetto and taking them to this private school where they're one of 2 or 3 or 4 black people.
At what age, by the way?
Oh, 14, 15, 16. And making them part of this class in the sense of putting them there, and then they gradually, just out of human processes of while you're at school, you certainly want to relate to other people, you want to get along, and before you know it, you're like the people that you're going to school with.
It's socialization. I mean, that's
right,
the process.
exactly.
Are these people intermarrying with their white social upper class people, or do they bring black women into this program as well?
There are black women in the program as well. And I don't know the answer to that question in terms of any systematic data yet. We've only interviewed a few of the people, but definitely then there is some intermarriage.
Yeah. So that was the second clip. Any thoughts on that, what he just said? By the way, he did mention that the organization that was known to do this was a Rockefeller, this was an elites organization that they put together to bring out Jakes from the ghettos and put them in private school and then just train them up. The best and the brightest, they trained them up so that they can have them to work for them and do what they want them to do.
Well,
And
look at
it's an actual thing. There you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So you look at Spelman University. was created by John D. Rockefeller's wife, his family, the Spelmans. So Spelman University became an all-female, all-black female university. It was named after John D. Rockefeller's, I think it's John D. Rockefeller's wife, and her family actually. So her family was the ones that put the boards together and that allowed certain women to come up in that school of so-called black, poor to middle class. And then it was like, it was supposed to be set up as a basically a coaching ground for young black kids, you know. And then that's where the name gets his name from too. I think his name was like Laura Spelman or something like that. But they did the same thing. And you know, you would think that these schools were set up to be grounds for so-called independent black study and minds, and it wasn't. And just they have lots of groups like that. I remember when I was in high school, I was in a group, something similar to this, called Philadelphia Futures.
Mm-hmm.
We had basically black, well, it was different color people, but mainly black people. Well, the organization was for black children, at-risk children who were growing up, but they had some type of gift, educational gift, scholastic, and they would pair them up with mentors throughout their high school career. So at 9th grade, I got a mentor who was a doctor in psychiatry. His wife was a doctor in podiatry. And at the time, you know, I was aspiring to be a obstetrician gynecologist. I wanted to be a doctor, in the medical field. And I won the $3,000 scholarship. I won the mentor program, and I got a mentor so-called for life. You know what I'm saying? And even when I didn't graduate college at my first way around, this man and his wife became something like a family to me. You know what I mean? And he literally showed me the difference between night and day. I grew up in the ghetto in the 90s. It was shootouts, all of that. And this man would drive from outside of Philadelphia, come in the city, come get me, take me to ball games, take me out. He was basically grooming me. I didn't know, but he was. You know what I mean? And then later in life, like maybe like 3-4 years ago, he passed away recently. Last year, I didn't even know, but he passed away. But I kind of found out, I got through my subtlety, I got out of him that he was part of the Boule. He said he was a part of the Boule, but he said, well, I wasn't. He said it wasn't for me. Well, rather, I wasn't for it. And how did I deduce that he was a part of the Boule? Because his father was a black dentist in the 50s. He had his own practice. He was well known in Connecticut. And then his son, George Gardner, he became a psychiatrist. And because his dad was already up and running and doing his own thing, was independent, which Lord willing we'll go through in a little bit. He, I think his dad might have been part of the Boule too. So, but the Boule started in Philly. So he moved to Philadelphia from Connecticut, and they picked him up. They found him. And what they do is they go amongst the black community within Philadelphia and all throughout the country, and they do the same thing that these colleges were set up to do, which was the filter for future leaders, future entrepreneurs, future people that they think that, hey, that's going to rise to the occasion. You know what I'm saying? Slakia, you got it, brother.
You know, just to bring this out, 1 Peter 1:16, it says, because it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy. And what we know about holy, that word, it means separate, right? It says dedicated or consecrated to Yahweh or a religious purpose, sacred, also separate. And so my first experience coming in, seeing the frat and the organization, me and my Shah spoke briefly about this today, you know, is that, you know, I get to Fort Valley State in middle of Georgia, and you know, regular things is going on. I'm not from the South. I don't know anything about a frat or sorority. And then I walk over to I remember going to on campus. I just seen their presence. The head of the student council, he was an alpha. You know, then you see their presence at the little, you know, school functions. But now outside of campus, then you see their presence as well. And I said, damn, we pretty much surrounded by these people. But now, you know, going out for a freshman year, you going out. You know, nighttime hit, you going out. Nighttime hit again, you going out. And that's a repeated cycle. And I noticed that the places we was going was the frat row. That's where all of the different fraternities are lined up, house to house, or every other house is a frat house. And that's where all the partying goes on. That's where all the drinks is at. It's complete debauchery. Whatever they say, go. You go into this house, and whatever they say, go. They running it. You know, it's, you know, everybody out, then it's everybody out. You know, everybody take a shot, then it's everybody take a shot. And that's the type of lifestyle it was. But these brothers actually experienced from the inside out, you know, and we're going to get their accounts too, just like yesterday, you know, and it's no different. What these brothers was involved with is what you would call, you know, it's just on the left-hand side, you know, a fraternal organization that's on the left-hand side. You know, what they promote on the outside is, you know, peace, joy, harmony, or self-sufficiency, and so forth and so on. But on the inner workings, on the inside, it looks a little different. You know, the things that you don't get to see look a little different. These brothers are actually gonna explain what exactly they went through. So first, Gabar Yehowda, you good on time, or you might have to break?
No, I'm good on time. Let's think it happen, man.
All right, hey, Gabar Yehowda, why don't you kick it off first? You know?
Okay. So what's the
Yeah, so of course you start with your college, the frat, and the date you crossed.
Oh, okay. So I went to school several times over. Like I went to my first initial experience with college was in 1998, and I didn't pledge at that particular school. It was Indiana University of Pennsylvania. I didn't pledge an organization until, well, I pledged two organizations, but at two separate times. So the first organization I what you would call pledging was I was part of the Prince Hall Lodge, John G. Lewis Prince Hall Lodge, Masonic Lodge in 2002. I think it was 2002. Yeah, it was in 2002. I did that. So I became a Mason first and got to the Master Mason degree was about January. I think it was like January 2002. And then eventually after my deployment from Iraq, I wanted to join I was still young. I was like 23, 24 maybe. And I wanted to join an organization that was more in line with what I had experienced in college, which were those fraternity organizations, BGLOs, which is Black Greek Letter Organization. And so I didn't get in my town where I was stationed at in Fort Hood, we had a black bookstore and he had a black newspaper. And in the back of the black newspaper, it had all these different organizations from the Prince Hall Lodge that I joined, and also all the Black Greek Letter Organization and non-Greek organizations in my area. So I actually joined in 2004. In July of 2004, I had crossed over. I was pledging from like late May, all the way to about July 14th, 2004. I joined an organization called Groove Phi Groove Social Fellowship Incorporated. It's a non-Greek organization. More or less, it was a Greek organization, but with an African vibration. So, like, unlike the other elder brothers that you spoke to, they joined a major Greek organization. You know, I joined a non-Greek organization, but we still got like tons of chapters and men all over America. So yeah.
You familiar with them, Masha?
Particularly, no, it's my first time hearing about them, really.
Yeah, it's crazy because and it was in Texas that I joined, right? So I joined through a grad chapter, even though I was still an undergraduate student. And we had chapters at that particular time. We had chapters in Prairie View A&M, Grambling State University. This is an area that I was in. Also, they had a graduate chapter in Dallas. And then I want to say it was another one, but I was back and like crazy. Just to just to segue a little bit, like when the night Elder Yashawamba went over as a Kappa, I was there. I was at the party that he was at. I didn't know him, but we knew the same people. That he knew people from our organization. He knew women from our sister organization, Swing Five Swing, Social Fellowship Incorporated as well. So at the time, it wasn't really big. In the early 2000s, it kind of started dying down in the 90s, but then it had a resurgence again in the late 2000s, mid to late 2000s. And so like I'm aware that a lot of people aren't familiar with it, but yeah, it's just this book I got right here. This book right here called African American Fraternities and Sororities. And hold on, I gotta fix the background. Give me a second. It's some way I gotta do this. Give me a second, brothers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just talk about the book in the meantime.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sorry, brother. I'm just trying to.
It's all good.
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. Anyway, if you can't see it, it's blocked, but it's
we can see it. We can see it.
It's called African American Fraternities and Sororities. So I actually read this book first, and then I end up finding out about Groove 5 Groove through this book, and I had another book. It was a smaller book. I think it was called Black Greek 101, and they also mentioned the organization. And so my organization would have fell under what you call a pseudo Greek organization. At the time, you had in the 60s, the Black Greek organizations were heavy throughout America, and it was only 8 at the time. But in the 60s, you had the Black Power movement. And so my organization was formed out of the Black Power movement, right alongside of Iota Phi Theta, which at the time, Iota Phi Theta was called also a pseudo-Greek organization, which it was called I Felt the Thigh. And then it changed its name eventually when it got acceptance to the Noble Nine, or it used to be the Elite 8, then they turned their name to the Noble 9, and then they changed their name from I Felt the Thigh to Iota Phi Theta. And in that time, so we came off the same college campus of Morgan State University, October 12th, 1962. So again, Salakia, if brothers ain't familiar with that particular organization, but it definitely is a real organization. I really pledged. I did exactly the same thing you would do, pledging Alpha Phi Alpha, Sigma, Phi Beta Sigma, and all these other organizations. Yeah.
What would you say is like the lessons that you picked up from being around some of these people?
So it's similar: brotherhood, scholarship, the same thing that they say that they were kind of against, we were for it. I mean, but it was just an Afrocentric vibration. But I picked up, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, it's crazy because I had already had those things because I had joined the Prince Hall Masons.
Yeah, talk about them for a minute.
Yeah. So what made me become a Mason at the time, my father was a Mason, and I used to always hear, in order to be one, you had to know one. You know what I mean? And my dad coming in the house with his suitcase, and he came in the house with his suitcase, and I was like, "Oh man, what's that?" I saw all these Masonic symbols on his case, and me and my dad wasn't close growing up, kind of like me and my daughter right now. So I felt like if I 469, if I joined this organization, that me and my dad, we could get close together. Right. And so I was really naive, and I had a noble cause at the time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, I wasn't trying to really be down with people like that, but I was very well versed in Black Greek letter organizations as well as non-Greek organizations, because through a gift that I didn't know I had until I came into the truth was my research skills. My research skills allowed me to delve into the history of these organizations. So I was coming in with a noble cause. Like, I wanted to be part of a brotherhood. So I got that from Masonry. So when I became a Mason, it was through the military, because in the military, you got people from all walks of life. And a lot of men that didn't go to college, or that went to college, kind of dropped out or whatever. So Prince Hall affiliated Masonry, or Prince Hall, PHA Masonry. That's the black side of Masonry. You got
Right.
the free and accepted Masonry. That's normally like Edomite territory, and you got Jakes in there too, but that's normally populated by Edomites. And
What's the history of that Prince Hall?
so Prince Hall was a ex-slave whose father was his slave master, and he got his freedom through his father at his father's death, and it was during the time of the Revolutionary War period in America. So you had a lot of that going on, and Jake's ex-slaves or slaves were joining the side of the British to get their freedom. And then Prince Hall, I think he moved to Philadelphia, and he saw the Masons. He wanted to be a part of it. He tried to join a white lodge. They turned him down. So he joined the British Lodge. They accepted and gave him I can't remember the name of it, what it's called, but he basically gave him title or lease to start his own organization. And he started the Prince Hall of Prince. He started the African Lodge. It was called the African Lodge at first. The first African Lodge, I think number one, it was like in Massachusetts or something like that, Boston or somewhere. And then the second one was started in Philadelphia. That's why right now the Grand Lodge of Philadelphia is like one of the hugest African American lodges in America and throughout the world. And that's like they hold that organization in high esteem. And so obviously it spread across America. Eventually it got its own bylaws and titles and whatnot. And through that, now you have two kind of like faces of Masonry. You got an African American face, a so-called black face, which they got white people, Hispanics, but mainly black people in there. Then you got the free and accepted Mason, because in order for you to be a Mason during the time of Prince Hall, you had to be free. You couldn't be like a slave. That was impossible. But they figured they used this organization just like they use these BGLOs. And now you're going to hear me refer to Black Greek letter organizations as BGLOs throughout this segment. That's only because I'm used to saying that because of these books that I've learned from.
It's all good.
And particularly this book right here. This is a really, really good book. I got another book hanging around here. It's not as good. It's kind of similar though. It's kind of similar, but it's not as in depth. I'm sorry.
So
go ahead.
pause for a second. Masha, what college, what frat? You know, you can introduce yourself, tribe again, but what college, what frat, date you crossed, in the year?
God, yeah. So once again, that was Brother Masha from Birmingham camp. Brother Masha, Yahweh Yashala. Yeah. So the college I went to is UAH. That's University of Alabama Huntsville, and I crossed in fall 2012. And basically just to give just a
What
brief.
frat?
Oh, Phi Beta Sigma. Yeah, across. So across in fall 2012, I crossed with Phi Beta Sigma, the Alpha Sigma Alpha chapter that's there. So just to give a brief history on it. So basically, I was a freshman, of course, made it to college, and really how it all started was because my brother, he's a Sigma, and when I was young, I was real young. I was a kid when he was still in college. I had went to his probate, and he was attending A&M at the time, or Alabama A&M, and I went to his probate. Me and my mom, my dad, we went to his probate. And I was a kid, I didn't know any better. But when I saw the probate, I had an interest in it.
For those who don't know, the probate is when what?
For a probate, so basically, probate is basically like a coming out. Like when you pledging, they once you finish, what they call going through a process, or in other words, they're basically taking you through a whole induction process. And at the end of that, they have something called a probate. So in other words, it's like a ceremony, or I want to say ceremony, but it's like a show, and for the public, or like for the college students that's there.
And let me make
And
a brief statement too before you continue. You know, just to paint the picture better for people who have no idea what the hell we talking about. The occult work in certain ways, but one thing for sure, they got to get members. Even though it's secrecy, they got to have members. It works similar to a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi scheme, if nobody else buys into it, it falls, it collapses, it's ruined. So essentially, if you ever wanted to discontinue an occult or a group that is a secret society, you would just have to discontinue their membership, similar to genocide.
Yeah.
And what these brothers is talking about is these different occults having such pull in their cities, in their neighborhoods, amongst their family members, amongst their friends, so much pull that you can't help but to take take a look at it for yourself and to see if that's something you would want to be. It's damn near part of family. So as the brother's describing being a Sigma and how Gabar Howard is describing being a Freehall Mason, you got to understand these societies is deep rooted within Jake communities, families, friends, police officers, judges, everybody you can name. So it goes on. And then as far as Freemason and Masonry is even more, let's say, solidified. But a lot of the some of the Freemasons and the Masonry, I'm sure they pipeline straight from some of these fraternities.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
You want to go say something on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of these organizations that you see today, whether they be major Greek organizations such as Phi Beta Sigma Alpha Phi Alpha, or non-Greek organizations still with good numbers like Groove Phi Groove, these organizations, they came in waves. So the first wave of fraternal organizations in America, as regarding Black people, were benevolent organizations. Every last one of these organizations stemmed from the benevolent societies. So these were societies that were formed in churches who would help the public. That's why a lot of these fraternal organizations, one of their key things that they use to advertise their organization is community service, uplift. You hear things like that. All of that comes from the benevolent societies. And from the benevolent societies, you would get the what's an example of a benevolent society? You had the Odd Fellows, Prince Hall Masons. You had other organizations, but those are the two major ones. Just Freemasonry. Those are all benevolent societies, even though they work on a higher level of wickedness. You will never get to that point unless you graduate, especially through Masonry. Because you could be a Sigma, you could be a Q-Dog, you could be a Groove, you could be a Kappa. Those are really low level benevolent.
Yeah, that don't mean you running the entire city of Philadelphia. That don't mean that you are alpha. Now you have access to the Rothschild banking elite. Yeah.
Those organizations, so what they are, like the elder said, they're like a tunnel. You're not gonna really touch ground, like, and I'm gonna show you. As we go through this conversation, this cast today, you're going through what I know and what the elders know. You're gonna see how like the collegiate organizations were a funnel back to Masonry. They're back. So because I did it backwards, I became a Mason first, then I became a Groove. I was going to become a Kappa. I was going to become a Q. Whoever would have called me that day, and I had the money to do it, I would have did it. You know what I'm saying? It just so happened that the Groove brother, he kicked me up right back. He came to my crib, and I became a Groove. But when I became a Groove, I got a lot of respect because I was already a Mason.
So Gabar, hold that down for a second.
Yeah.
Let me go back to my shot story real quick. My shot. So freshman year in your first experience with it, you said your brother was one. And so, it was natural for you to you saw his probate. You left off with that story. That was your first ever witnessing what exactly it was all about. What was going through your mind, and like how'd you figure that you wanted to cross after that?
Oh man, what was going through my mind was that, oh man, this is, yeah, this was something to really get into. You know, I saw the, the hand gestures, everybody, everybody, doing the step, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah. So the strolls, and just in case of people don't know what strolling is, basically strolling is how they play like the music, and
I showed it in the
they do that.
beginning. It was the
Oh
first
yeah,
clip in the video.
yeah. That's strolling. Yep. So
Yeah.
basically, I just saw the strolling, everything, I was mesmerized, by it, and then I always had that thought with me ever since when I grew up, in high school, when I graduated high school, went to UAH, and actually my brother, he actually did he pledged Phi Beta Sigma, and afterwards he graduated, and then he went on to become a Mason.
Told you.
And yep, that's exactly what exactly what
confirming
yeah,
what the brother said.
what Gabar, exactly what he said. Yep. So that's that's the truth. And yeah, so when he graduated, he went straight into masonry, and he wearing the paraphernalia with the G letter with on his tag, everything, and I saw that too. And I was
free Prince Hall or regular
free Mason.
Freemason.
Please free, yep.
All right.
And so I was curious about it because I saw it was like a cloth. It was like a white cloth with the G symbol on it. And I asked him, I said, what was it? And he told me, he said, oh yeah, that's a symbol for Freemasonry. And I was kind of, asking questions because I was curious. And, he was showing it out like, kind of blowing it off, you know what I mean? Because, with these fraternities, they're real secretive, especially Masonry. They not, they don't publish, information like that, freely. So basically he said, basically what Gabar Yahweh just said earlier, that motto says to be one, ask one, and he had that same, that same motto with him too. So, and he didn't want to do it, so he was willing to call up, one of his connections at the time, and that also a part of that was also going to UAH, because when I got to UAH, the fraternity was already there. They were at the door, at the dorms. They helped me. They helped me get my stuff. My to go into the dorm. I was moving into the dorm at UAH. They were already there. They were ready. Because they got the call from my brother. Saying I was going to be there. So they helped me out and everything. And kind of brought me in. Introduced themselves, and from there, we connected. But I didn't cross that first year I was there, because I went to UAH in 2011, and then the year after in 2012 I had crossed, and that was my sophomore year I crossed. So during that whole time, my folks on my freshman year, they're like, you might want to kind of think about it first before crossing, and I did give it some thought that first year, and then the second year I went back and I just decided, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and cross.
What was that last decision? What was that icing on the cake for you that made you just go ahead and do it?
It was just basically that conversation I had with my brother again. I went back to talk with him, and he kind of, I don't remember like the whole conversation.
Yeah.
But basically, oh man.
Okay. Brother camera freezing up a little bit. Gabar Yahweh, you see a lot of similarities in that as well, huh?
Oh man, a big time. Can you share my screen real quick, Baba Kasha?
Oh yeah, I see you up.
That's lucky. Yeah, I cut out.
Yeah.
The
So
it's all good, my shot. We'll get back to you.
This shirt right here is I used to have this shirt right here. You might not can't see it too well, but this shirt right here. Hold on, give me a second, brother. This shirt right here is you would see a lot of Masons put this shirt on, and they would have it on, and people you would have it on, and people that was in these
Zoom in for us.
Yeah, I'm about to do it right now. Give me a second.
Here we
People would
go.
see this shirt right here, and they would show you like mad respect, mind you, because I like just like brother Masha. I had a similar experience. Like nobody in my family was in college or in fraternity organizations except for my father being a Mason. But when I was in college, my first experience with Greek life was a Kappa member. My man name is at the time his name was TJ, and he was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, and they were grooming me too. Like they saw that I was really popular. I was really charismatic, so like, but grades wasn't my first thing. It was like I got enamored by the parties, by the fraternities, stepping in the parties. Then I got cool with the sorority chicks, the alpha Kappa Alpha girls. I got cool with them because I had that. It may not seem like it now, back then, man. I just had a magnetism for women. They just like drawn to me, and I would just hang out with them and get to know them and shit. So then, like the Kappa members saw that, and it was like, damn, let me talk to this man. So this Kappa named TJ, he took me under his wing basically, and he let me stay at his crib when I didn't have nowhere to go during Thanksgiving break. So I stayed at his house, and while I was at his crib, they had a line. They had a people online at the time from my school. And Philadelphia is Kappa Alpha Psi's headquarters in Philadelphia. So it was right around the corner from where he lived at. And then Temple University was a big university with Kappas on it too. Long story short, I'm upstairs. My room was the basement. Well, they wanted to pledge these dudes in the basement. So I had to leave. So I had to go upstairs. So I sat upstairs in the living room, and I could just hear these dudes getting beat. Like, I was like, what the hell? I was like, they were crying and screaming. And I was like, hell no. I was like, I ain't gonna do that shit. You ain't gonna do that to me. You know what I mean? So then right then and there, I knew that I didn't want to be a Kappa at the time. And that's because that's what I experienced. And so, then I went to one of their parties and it got a little weird. So I was like, nah, I definitely don't be no Kappa. So then they kind of like my dream of joining an organization kind of like was on halt because I had to leave school because my grades was too low. So, but I had always wanted to be in the organization. And there was just something about that brotherhood that I was like, man, I really want that. Because I didn't have a lot of friends, male friends, who I could say that, oh, these are my group of guys. It was like one or two dudes I was cool with in life. And then outside of that, it was just like everybody just knew me. You know what I'm saying? So, no other organization kind of drew my attention. And then like when I went to the Army, again, I became a Mason. And then I saw the difference. Once I became what they call getting on the square, because you go through a pledge process just like you do in the fraternity, any ordinary fraternity, but it's on a whole nother level though. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like when people see that, oh, you a Mason, and like you really wearing this paraphernalia and you know what you're talking about, people just, again, they drawn to you. So once I joined Groove Fire Groove, I went through another pledge process similar to that when I was a Mason. I was actually online as a Mason way longer than I was as a Groove. I was online as a Mason for like 6 months, because we were working class men. We were in the military and our schedules didn't line up all the time. And then we weren't ready for I think it was like the fellow craft degree at one point. So we had to go back to the, what is it called? Enter apprentice. And we had to study again. And then eventually, obviously we made it, and then we became Master Masons. And then it was a whole nother world because I could wear Mason paraphernalia, and then I wore Groove paraphernalia. But when I wore that Mason paraphernalia, it was like Kappas, Qs, Grooves, Sigmas. They be like bowing down to you, low
Pay
key.
homage. Everybody pay homage to
Especially
the
in the
Masons.
South. Especially in the South. In the South is different than the North. In the North, you had to be like 21 years old to be a Mason. In the South, you could be 18 years. Well, no, in Texas, you had to be 21. In Louisiana, you could be 18 and be a Mason. So they had Masons on campuses. Like Prairie View A&M had masonry Mason halls on a campus. And I was like, what? What is this stuff? It was crazy. And they would step, they would do everything that these other organizations did.
Hey,
And
Masha, real quick, what kind of reputations did Masons have when they came around?
Oh man, same description. You know, so they were the top dogs. You know, so to speak.
Mm,
You know, they were, you know, they basically when all the fraternity they see, somebody that's in Freemasonry, they just like, oh man, hey, listen to this guy. You know what I mean? Like it's basically that kind of energy
real,
with somebody from Mason.
well, we the only ones that can wear a shirt with all the fraternities on it underneath of us. They can't do that. Like a Sigma can't have a shirt on with Kappa Alpha Psi, Omega Psi Phi, Alpha Phi Alpha on it, like and they're above it. They can't do that. You can't wear nobody else letters. We could do that, and that's because they came out of us.
yeah,
It's like,
I got something. This is Galatians. Galatians 5:16. Because what the brothers is reading about, speaking about, is exactly how it operates right in front of your face. And the reason why a majority of people just don't know what the hell, or may not have heard or may not be familiar with what brothers is talking about, that don't mean it's not actually happening on a daily basis. It's very structural, it's very organized, and it's right there in your face every day. That's why people like Shaq and people like, Charles don't never say much. They don't turn on their own. You hear thinking that it's all about black lives and black people, and the majority of these people then is worshiping a different power than you. They your people, but they under different spells. Brother Elder Mashot, he spoke about how he was mesmerized. You was a younger man, of course, but that's part of the power that it has, mesmerization, to mesmerize you. It's the letters, it's the symbols, it's the occult business, right? You feel tied to something. Obviously, we walking around this earth not knowing, having an identity crisis, not knowing who we are. And then we see that it's just jakes and organizations. And it's like, yo, this got to be the way. And then you got family members and friends that influence you. But the scriptures in Galatians 5:16. So I say, let the Salakia, here go. It says, this I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. When you're dealing with the understanding of that, you got a spiritual connection with the Heavenly Father through his Son, of course. And when it's strengthened, right, it allows you, it plays like a guide for you, And when it talks to you about the lust of the flesh in the NLT, it says your sinful nature doing what you won't be doing what your sinful nature craves. So a lot of these things that mesmerize us and that our people walk into and jump into these organizations for in the first place is usually something that you crave. It's usually either the structure on the low end, but it also goes into just having a lot of, having that sugar, having a lot of women at your beck and call. The organization that got pulled when it comes to employment, they got you. All right. A lot of them seem to have money, had to be, I got people's in my family that in my extended family, Masons, and they got bread, they don't be wanting for nothing. So it tells you, you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Other than if you're not walking by the spirit, you're going to covet and you're going to want and you're going to covet more and you're going to want. It goes on to say, for the flesh lusted against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. And we emphasizing the point that the flesh wants you to do things that are evil. The spirit wants you to do things that are upright and just. The flesh wants you to do things that are carnal, temporary solutions and temporary fixes and things of right now. The spirit wants you to hold on, stay strong, be true to what your calling is, and serve the Lord and understand that you are a prince of the power. And so that's why they war against each other. And it says, but if ye be led by the spirit, ye are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, which we understand completely that when you crossing, because I knew on the outside looking in, man, it's some adultery going on up in these parties.
Big time.
Big time, right? Some of them is swingers. And then you get dealing with the boule,
Yeah.
You get every box off the list.
Yeah.
And they say adultery, fornication, which is going into idolatry because you could spiritually fornicate. And
All
why
that's
the elder Yashawamba yesterday spoke about that, how at one point in the ceremony, maybe not for everybody, even not the elder brother Adama, but for elder Yashawamba, they made them vow to a Greek god. You know, that was a part of it. So that fornication is definitely deep rooted inside Masonry, inside these different groups. So you got to be careful. You got to understand, not even just be careful. You got to know what you're dealing with to the fullest extent. That mesmerization only goes so far with the Heavenly Father, because ultimately you're supposed to be walking by the Spirit anyway. And these are things that, of course, can these brothers be judged off of that? Well, they repented already. There's nothing to be spoken. I mean, it's nothing to come at these brothers for, you know. It's nothing to feel as if I gotta, move away from this brother. Nah, I can't be around that. That brother used to be these brothers done repented. That's a power that's higher than me. The hell with what I think or what the next man think. These brothers done already asked the Lord for forgiveness for many of these things, as we all should. And it goes on to say fornication, uncleanness. These things definitely leave you unclean. Basically there was certain laws that was about not touching certain things and not touching certain, pork, dead bodies. There's an uncleanness about being amongst the Greeks or men in Greek fashion, the Hellenists, or the things that they do. There's an uncleanness about America, about Babylon. There's an uncleanness about anything on the left-hand side.
All that shit is unclean, man.
It's all unclean.
At the end of the day, it's all unclean and it's all idolatry, even though it comes with the guise of the Bible. And that's where it get a lot of people. Because I think Elder Adama said yesterday, he had mentioned Psalms 133, Omega Psi Phi likes to use that in their pledging and their hazing. And they're not the only ones. All these organizations, starting off with Prince Hall affiliated Masonry, they use all these scriptures and they'll have you thinking that it's a biblical organization, but come to find out it's a satanic organization using a Bible to have you take oaths on, you being cut, it's a lot of shit that go on that people don't realize. And when you at the lowest level, it's like you don't really know shit.
Yeah.
Saying like I know like a lot of these black college organizations, I'm sorry for cutting you off too.
Nah, go for it. This is the spirit.
A lot of these these Greek organizations, period, doesn't matter if you're black or white Greek organization, they are as pertaining to the black Greek organizations, they're actually the lowest throngs, because that's being held. It started by children. It wasn't started by men of knowledge, like true knowledge. It was started by children who wanted to mimic what God was doing. And so what you had, and then obviously as it got older and bigger and men got more understanding, it was like, oh, okay, we're going to
we can use this.
Yeah, we could use it. But it started off with children trying to mimic what their parents
That's
were doing.
it. Hey, brother, that's so important it's so important. You got to reiterate it. You have to know that the roots of the organizations, as far as fraternities and sororities go on college campuses, starting there, is all from once upon a time somebody coveted the Edomite Greek organizations, and it was during a time when they could not join that, and so they tried to have their own, just like a HBCU is trying to have your own college, just like Black Lives Matter or certain organizations. When you go on campuses, PWI, predominantly white institutions, they got African American studies, or now they got like a black coalition. These are just Jake really just trying to be like they superiors, what they believe is their superiors, and coveting. Oh wow, the same down to the letters, 3 letters, or but let's put a Jake twist on it. So now we're gonna dance. We're gonna dance different.
Let me give you this real quick. This is from African American Fraternities and Sororities, page 98. And Henry McKee Milton was the founder of Sigma Pi Phi, which you know as the Boule. All right. And it says Milton thought that an organization for Black learned professional men should be a fraternity in the true sense of the word, one whose chief thought should not to be to visit the sick and bury the dead. Remember those benevolent societies, but to bind men of like qualities, tastes, and attainments into a close and sacred union, that they might know the best of one another. Members would not be selected on the basis of brains alone, but in addition, congeniality, culture, good fellowship, that they shall have that they shall have behind them at initiation, a record of accomplishment, not merely men of promise and good education, because that's what these fraternities were. It says,
yeah, that's the society part
yeah, that's a society.
of the secret society. A society is just a small organization that basically, like how we know a cosmos, a society, a separate society, and they just chose to have everybody who's on the same frequency to be a part of that society. You know, just like the Lord chose everybody of the elect is going to be on the same frequency, and we are on separate society within a society of Israel. You got it out.
And it says again, let me read that again. Members would not be selected on basis of brains alone, but in addition, congeniality, culture, and good fellowship, that they shall have behind them. So they already got these things. At initiation, a record of accomplishment. That's why you got to be somebody of status in this world in order to be a Boule member. Not merely men of promise and good education. His fraternity would contain the best of Skull and Bones, of Yale, and of Phi Beta Kappa. His organization would combine fellowship, congeniality, Skull and Bones, with scholarship and achievement, Phi Beta Kappa. So these they like the elder was saying, they were coveting after something that was already established by Esau. They wanted to have a secret society of men who were able to, who already came with accomplishments. So that's why they look for self-made people. Going back to my my old mentor, his father was a self-made man in a time where America was completely divided. In a time where America was, like I even asked him, I said, "You grew up in the 50s. Did you experience any racism and stuff like that?" He said, "No, not really." He said, "I went to college. It was cool for me. I didn't really think about it. His mindset wasn't in integration because he had already, his father was a self-made man. So they liked people like that. So they grabbed him up first. And then he was like, "Oh, we're gonna take your son too, you know, and if he fit enough." And so they just like they do in the Skull and Bones. You got to come from a family of prominence. It's not about your education. It's not about the promise that you're going to be a great person in the future, like these regular organizations. You got to already come equipped, and you got to be juiced in.
Watch this.
Yep. Yeah.
See that, right?
And he can't do that. He wouldn't be able to put that tattoo on him if he wasn't part of that organization. And mind you, this nigga didn't go to college. This nigga didn't go to he didn't join Omega Psi Phi Beta Sigma. He joined the Boule because they came and got him. Because while he was self-made, he already had those accomplishments. He already had that world behind him. I've done several lessons on a Boule, but there's a video on CNN. I might pull a clip up if we got time. But there's a video and a woman is asking, "How can you join this Black Bergiosis group?" Well, she said, "Do you have to be rich to do it?" And the woman said, "You don't have to be rich. You just gotta." And she shook her head. You gotta know somebody. You gotta be juiced in. This is not about the money. It's about this man. LeBron James has massive influence over millions of people, especially young black, impressionable men. And whatever this nigga do, they gonna follow. So let me get him.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? Like normally they don't the Boule, just like the Masons, they don't flaunt themselves. You're not gonna see nobody walking down the street with a Sigma Pi Phi jacket on. You're not even gonna see nobody with the brand on. Typically, you wouldn't see that, right? Those are just like you not supposed to see nobody that's a Mason with paraphernalia flagged out. Like Jake do it, But the white Edomite Masons, they don't do that shit. They might got a ring on or something like that, or they just do their passwords. That's why in the South, they don't really accept Prince Hall Masons like that, because they still, in Texas at least.
Yeah, Jake got to be flamboyant with everything they see, because we got a different spirit once again. And once you add a little bit of idolatry in the mix, and lustful pleasures in the mix, and impurity in the mix, well, a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. So the whole organization, ultimately, since it started from the head down, if the head is evil and you don't know the head, you didn't meet the head, you're not at the top, right? You're just joining at the lower level. But what goes on at the top level, this group that you can't get into, right? The meetings that you aren't able to attend because you're not at that level yet. You're just on the lowest level there is. And once again, it's like a Ponzi scheme. They need memberships. They accept members when they choose who they want to, they have a process in which, you got to be of a certain caliber individual, right? Just to make the lowest level. But as you look at a pyramid, the base is always more. The base is always larger than the tip at the whatever they call that, the apex or the top of it.
Yeah, it's called the I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Right, but it's just a pyramid, and so that's what all those Illuminati symbols basically, and at the top would be that all-seeing eye, right? The one who's able to see straight through it, because all of these organizations lead back, whether it's Prince Hall, and then you have Knights of Templar, you even have a hierarchy amongst them.
Yeah,
supposedly you have the Scottish rites, and then you have the York rites, I believe.
Yep.
And rites, rites and rituals is all the same thing. And what we're getting into is basically how, at the lowest form, they recruit at the colleges, even at the beginning of before colleges, as we've seen. The elites decided to find you out and scope you out from the ghetto, and set up organizations to bring you to college, and then further you. So the whole process from your beginning, from childhood, all the way ushered into your adulthood, can be cultivated in a way by the elites through their different systems, right? Of scholarships, whatnot, and fraternal organizations, so that you end up becoming a piece of their grand puzzle. And now you have guys like, let's say, like a Kanye. How can Kanye be a part of it? Because he's juiced in. Yeah, he could, in one aspect, we would love to believe that somebody like Kanye could just boom, have a revelation and want to give up all his money. At the same time, are we allowed to see his bank account?
No.
Are we allowed to when the last time you seen any of his bank accounts? This is the news. How did they get the information that they shutting him down? And to what end? There's the serpent is the most guile, the most subtle beast of the field, the most subtle beast. And so his ways are so cunning that he can trick you into thinking that somebody's for you, because he has studied how brothers wake up. Oh, they wake up like this. This is how they're waking up. They're waking up, and then they're going straight to Israel, and then they're calling themselves Israelites amongst their peer group. And then so if he got Kanye or these celebrities, right? The Boule, they got our favorite people on TV. They got our favorite celebrities in their bag, in their right hand or in their left hand. How don't you think they'll use them at any way possible in order to distract and cause confusion and then for purpose of buck breaking? At the end of the day, every Jake in America is witnessing right now the buck breaking of Kyrie, of Kanye. You're witnessing buck breaking. What buck breaking, the only purpose for buck breaking was to scare the rest of the group, the rest of Jake, the rest of the slaves back into submission, just in case you thought you should be comfortable with rising up. Here goes your submission again. You want to say something?
No, brother.
I'm gonna finish out with Galatians 5. It says verse 19. It says verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, and lasciviousness. So once again, working back the understanding that the Most High gave you a spirit to war against your flesh. You don't just got that spirit there to sing a song. You think you Michael Jackson at the cookout. There go my uncle. He crazy. He just showed up at the cookout, start singing. That's not what your spirit is there for. Your spirit isn't so that you can have the red and white ones. That's your Kappa style. That ain't what your spirit is for. My spirit has me. Y'all don't even tap into what the spirit is for. The spirit is for you to walk in that way so you don't do what your nature, your natural sinful flesh wants you to do. Because all it's going to desire is things that we read in idolatry. Your flesh desires that. It wants you to bow down to and worship an idol right now. That's the easiest route possible. Everybody in America going to love you because the world love his own. Your flesh, it says idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance. Your flesh want to hate, especially the men of the Lord. Your flesh wants you to walk around hating all day. Look at Charleston White. That nigga can't, he'll say something wise, and then he'll back it up with something hateful. The nigga got hate all in his mind. That's how he worked. Because he ain't fulfilling the spirit. He ain't walking in the spirit. It says idolatry, witchcraft, verse 20, hatred, and that witchcraft. The scripture tell you in Samuel, that rebelliousness is as the sin of witchcraft. Even turning against the Lord, you become like a witch. And that's all the things that please your flesh. Your flesh is happy as hell at that. It's happy as hell that you could go jump in the orgy. Your flesh right now wants you to get busy. Call up 6 guys, for the ladies. Your flesh wants you to call up 6 guys right now and just go all out. And then, so you could be on Oprah and say what you did. One night, with like when some of these celebrities is just letting it all out. Yeah, I had 3 guys for my birthday. It says here, emulations. It says variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies. These are things your flesh wants you to get caught up in. Right? And that means heresies means division. You warn against everybody around you, just division. You can't see the end goal. You can't see the whole scheme of things in which these people then robbed you of your liberty and your salvation. They robbed you by putting these enticing, Satan and put so many enticing things with black faces in front of you that allows your sinful nature to run rampant. And you think you got choice. You over here aborting your own children. Aborting your own children for the sake of a little, what you call freedom of more lustful desires. And what happens? They get pregnant the next month. Abortion. Then they get pregnant the next month. They just going for the flesh. All out free for all for the flesh right now. It says envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I'll tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh.
Yeah, so you can't. Hey, Elder Apostle Hart said this a minute ago. He said that it was a dude that was a part of, I think, One West, and he was in one of them fraternity organizations, and he had all his paraphernalia, and he couldn't leave it alone. And Elder Apostle Hart said, "Hey man, you gotta throw all that shit out, man." And dude was like, "Nah, man," and that dude ended up falling out. He's back in the world in whatever organization that he was in, because it does have some type of power over you. Even Elder Adama said sometimes he would, he'd probably catch himself humming one of those pledge songs and shit, man.
Right. The flesh.
Yeah, and it's a part of you. Like, brother, I mean, I had to struggle with it. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I'd be on YouTube and you'll see these, and I don't even be looking up no fraternity shit. It'll just show up on my my little timeline thing, whatever. Yeah, and then I click on it, and then I notice I'm on that shit for like a whole 20-30 minutes, man.
Right.
Get the fuck off of this shit, man. I'm over here singing songs. I'm over here watching probates and shit. Like, I would never pledge again, bro. Like, hell to the Nizar. Like, I know that for a fact, but I know that it has a mysticism to it that you have to shake off. That Greekdom, that mindset is something that you got to shake off your spirit, because it is a part of your flesh. And once I start throwing up prayers and rebuking Satan, and then the demons just go away, and I'm back to my regular scheduled program. You know what I mean? But the point of the matter is that this stuff has a hold over our people. You may not, the regular average person looking at it may not think that it has witchcraft tendencies within it, but it does. It extremely does. It has it extremely does. You know, even I got a brand on my arm that I can't get rid of, bro. You know what I'm saying? And every time I look at that shit, and it's big as shit. It ain't like it's like a small one. Like I had to go all the way out. And I knew dudes when I was in the world. I was at parties where dudes would get like 4 or 5 brands in one night, just burning themselves up. Like, what the fuck? Like, no. And I was like, but I know these cats was into that shit, and I know that that's a demon. It's a self-mutilating demon. You know what I'm saying? In this organization, and I had did a lesson about it a while ago called pseudo brotherhood, man. Because that's all that fraternity shit is nothing but pseudo. And you look up the term pseudo, it's something I'll look it up for you real quick. Pseudo, the definition for pseudo is not genuine, spurious, a sham. And that's what all of that shit is a sham. The true brotherhood is what we have right now. Because
Right.
I've been on both sides of the so-called fraternity coin. And at first it was cool. Being a group, it was a small organization compared to the other black organizations. So we kind of knew each other, and we were drawn to one another. That masonry shit kind of similar, but on a bigger scale. But in reality, it wasn't true brotherhood, man. Because you go to one campus, them dudes don't even mess with you like that. You go to another campus, them dudes, they probably mess with you the hard way. It just, real talk. It's a lot of division in these organizations. But in this brotherhood, this is true brotherhood. I can literally go first of all, we all speaking the same thing. So that means I could go anywhere in any GMS camp and I could fall in line and we can speak the same thing. And that genuine brotherhood is going to be there.
Yeah, where you at right now? That just shows you we in completely different states. And it's not cap, you know. We've been talking to each other all day long and all week long, essentially. But that's the spirit of the Lord working in the right direction. Because once again, going back to that struggling, you know, there's a scripture in Genesis where the Lord says, I'm not going to abide. I'm not going to contend with you anymore, you know. And then he tells us that the amount of how long your mortal existence is going to be, because men were living, the spirit of the Lord was on men to live for years, hundreds, almost centuries, right? Methuselah live for that long, 700 years, 500 years. You got to ask yourself, what happened? The Lord said, I ain't going to contend with you no more, meaning I'm not going to abide with you no more. You're just immortal. And now, you know, so, you know, what you call mankind even has been diminished to a point where we just struggle with the most basic things. And if I can real quick, let me get the book of Romans, the 7th chapter. And this is where it all culminates to, like the brother Masha, I keep hearkening on what you said. It was mesmerizing. But that goes to show you a lot of things in Jake's span of reference, or the things you know about or you see in your life. They're set up to be mesmerizing, and they're set up by Esau to be mesmerizing. This is Romans 7:13. It says, now I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I propose to come unto you. Let me make sure I'm right at the right Salaki. This is not even Romans 7. Give me a second, brothers.
Go ahead. May I ask something real quick? Are you getting
Go
that?
for it.
Yeah. So just looking up that word I use, speaking about the pyramid, right? In which that the top is called I believe it's called capstone.
Capstone.
Yeah. So and now that I'm looking at it, because just to recollect, you know, a part of going through the process before we did induction, before I crossed, so basically just a similar story to Gabar Yahawada. So this person that was there, he was with us. He was the regional director for Phi Beta Sigma. So he was over the whole that whole region for affairs for that fraternity. And he and basically a similar story. He kind of he was trying to groom me, bring me through, doing things, and actually it was it was a particular meeting. So they typically have a meeting called conclave, and a conclave basically like a private meeting where you have a fraternity, all fraternity members coming together, and basically it was at a base level though. It wasn't anything, crazy or nothing, anything like that. But once you get into like the upper ladder, then that's when it starts to get, crazy, real crazy, especially when you get to masonry. That's when you really hit, you hit bizarro world, if I can if I can say that,
For real.
But yeah, so it basically went to conclave, and actually he took me there. Like I rode with him, and he had his whole hotel and everything, and we was at conclave, it basically discussing like, something like a business kind of, deal, or, something about society, and basically functions and stuff like that. So, but the whole time, as I was going through the process, he was, grooming me,
Yeah.
kind of, being like, kind of, being like a father figure, so to speak,
Yeah.
and that basically, and what he told me, and this is the reason why I brought up the capstone, because Alabama, I forgot what Alabama was. I think it was like the Yellowhammer State before, but it changed, and they changed the Alabama from being the Yellowhammer State to the Capstone State. So, which that kind of bogs my mind, because now you got Huntsville, that's being I believe Huntsville now is what, like the #1 city in the U.S. now.
Yeah,
If I'm
that's
not
how I seen
mistaken.
it promoted. Yeah, for people to move to, and yeah.
Yeah, so you can definitely see that it's headed that way, because they got like the arsenal, they got military bases. I mean, like two, three. I say about two. They have an arsenal here, and then they have a military base here, and that military base is near Alabama A&M. So yeah, so they're basically heading that direction. But like, again, they're basically, he kind of tipped me off that, he kind of said that, Alabama is going to be, that
Mhm.
pivotal state that they're gonna basically bring in, their agenda, so to speak, you
Word.
know. But
Yeah.
yeah, so basically just a similar story, but to land back off of what you were speaking about earlier, right? About, basically it's all unclean, it tugs on the flesh. Of course, like we were saying earlier, it's mesmerizing to you, it's mesmerizing to the eyes. It's alluring. It has this certain allure to it. And
Right.
we're Israelites. We're impressionable. We
And
was like,
Salaki, and even to mention that allure is just, they know that's not what it is, but they know that's how they gotta catch you.
mhm,
See, they fishermen too. Fishermen on the left hand side too. And so, the lights, camera, action, just like Hollywood Boulevard, just like New York City Times Square. People want to see the lights. That's the base level of attraction. I think it was a movie. I forget what movie it was. Oh, it was y'all seen the one where the guy takes the pill and he becomes wise and smart?
Limitless.
Limitless.
Yep.
You remember that scene when he's like dealing with the top people now, and he gets into a room, and then he's like losing his abilities to focus, and the TV's on. He's like standing at the TV, and the guy sitting next to him, he's like, "Don't tell me you're one of them guys that shut down when there's a TV in the room." You remember that scene? Well, that was De Niro that told him that, near the end of the movie, because the TV wasn't meant for the elites to sit down and watch.
Right. Yeah, it's a portal for the lessers. It's just they don't do the things that we do. They don't go to movies, and they do talk to one another through the movies via their agendas, but they don't sit. You'll never see like there's a documentary about Jacob Rothschild called Aristocrats, and in his manor, you don't see no TVs in that manor. You don't see no you don't see no cable box, you don't see no internet, you don't see no computer. Those things are not something that they tap into. They do it on the left hand side on a higher level. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. They're not the dancing. When you join up these frats, because I was one of them who wanted to eagerly participate in that. I just never chose what you call a normal frat. But the frat I was involved with was called MIP, Men's Initiative Program, and this was at Morehouse College, and it was like linking all the schools together that was in the AUC. And yeah, it was moving like a frat. The Masons ran it. We was meeting vice presidents of Sierra Leone, I think, one day. You know, all the guys in there. And the sentiment of everybody in the frat is basically like the people who are not in here are not as good as us.
Yep.
At the very base, that's the level of mentality that you have to come with. You know.
Well, no, I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, well, they got a term called GDI, a goddamn individual. If you're not in the fraternity, you're a GDI and a goddamn individual, and they really treat you like that.
Nah. And to guess what? Kudos for them. Because guess what? We agree. You know, now that's gonna shake a lot of people up. The majority of people out here in this world, they gone. Even the scriptures promote that understanding. You know, the world, pray not for them. I pray not for them. Or how to, you know, that or the world loveth darkness and not light. And the Lord came in with light, and they hated him, because they love darkness. But it's not pitched in the idea to walk around proud and arrogant isn't pushed in the scriptures. So we acknowledge the fact that the majority of people is not going to get it. They're going to receive the destruction and damnation just based off of going through the straight gate. I mean, the broad is the way that leadeth into destruction. The majority of people is going towards the broad. They're going with the grain. You know, to be in this truth, you got to go against the grain. So our spiritual foes, in a sense, are these Masons and these elite. We always bring out the elite for a reason. We don't talk about the common man. We speak on the elite because these are our spiritual equal. These are our opposite equals, if you will. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're the elite of our people. If we part of the Hope for Elect, we're gonna be like I like the way Bishop Elder Karab, Bishop Karab, he says like in the kingdom of heaven, if we part of the elect, you know, like Michael Jordan only deal with his people when he want to deal with them. You can't just go to Michael Jordan's house and hang out. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's going to be in the kingdom of heaven. If we part of the elect, we're going to be on a higher level than the average Israelite. You know what I'm saying? And they can't just walk up to Jake and just be like, yo, let me slap your hand, smack in the back of the head. That's not going to happen. Like, we're set apart within our community, within our nation. The elect is set apart because we're the first. Lord willing, we part of the elect. That would mean we're part of the first fruits. We're the first spirits created outside of Yahushua. You know what I'm saying? Yahushua created this separate group of brothers, the 144,000 men that's always been with them. They've always been amongst them. We're the first of our family line. You know what I'm saying? So we don't just sit down. You can if you want. That's your prerogative. But it ain't going to happen like that because you're going to be on another level. Like Elder Pastor Hart say, it's level to this thing. You know what I mean? Brothers going to be on spiritual powers that like the average Israelite may not have. Yeah, they might be immortal. They will be immortal.
Hierarchy.
The hierarchy going to get, you know, things that they won't have. You know what I'm saying? It ain't going to be nothing against them. It's just that, hey, this is what they earn. That's why that's why you hear about that private session between Yahushua and the men that stood so stiffly who receive these crowns on their head, because the average Israelite not going to receive a crown from Yahushua personally. the average Israelite not going to be sitting at the table of Yahweh Shai, drinking with them, you know what I'm saying, and partaking in that particular gift. They're going to see them. They may even have an opportunity to be around them, but not on a level as the elect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So when we speak to these,
there's certain angels with priority.
yeah. So when we speak to these elite, this word that we going out, it go directly to the Rothschilds. They listen and watch these videos, especially from the apostles. Like we're not on the levels of the apostles, man.
Yep.
There's a different hierarchy there amongst that, but yet we still held in some type of high degree. Hey, I remember when his brother Mashah was by himself. I remember when Alabama was just him. I remember that. I remember when he was on a corner by himself doing the work. And now you go look at Alabama. Them brothers bigger than they bigger than all outside. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because that those group of men congregated around this brother. And then I don't know how y'all hierarchy is now. I don't know whose camp has and nothing like that. But I remember when I was Dolo, he was Dolo. I remember when he stood up as a camp. And then I remember so there's a hierarchy even within the bodies of the different brothers. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why you got camp elders, you got the regional heads. They're higher than us. Like I'm not in a regional head chat. I'm in a camp heads chat. But then there's a regional heads chat who they talk to the bishop elders. I don't get to do that. You know what I'm saying? But I ain't mad. That's just their priority. You know, and so when we speak this word, when we go out and do the work, them elites, they watching all these videos and they hear exactly what we saying because they know that this word about them being taken down out of power is for them. You got it, brother.
Mashah, you want to say something or precepts or anything like that?
Yeah, just to add on what basically what you were saying, just this in itself, this is the true brotherhood right here. That's because the true brotherhood, we're not as like in the world view, like how we how they see brotherhoods, stuff like that. No, we operate in the spirit, the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Shai, and that's why like the elder brother just said, that even though we come from different walks of life, but yeah, we underneath the same banner, because we resonate with this, and that's and you know what, when you look at the whole brother story, joining fraternities, that's basically like almost similar to this, basically it's like a kindred type of vibration, it's something that you resonate with, and that's why again, but that's according to the flesh, and that's why we were speaking about earlier that something that it was something about what you experience that brings you in, so on the right hand side, we understand, and we see what's really going on, okay, and it resonates with us, this message that we heard, starting with the apostles and elders, okay, on down, it resonates with us, resonate with our spirit, and that's why we're close, this close together, even though we're in different states, we may be in other parts of the world, case in point, brothers in the UK, they or in London, hey, we link up, why? Because we have the same spirit, this truth resonates with us. Yep. And that's why we're so close together. When you meet the brothers, man, it's like you haven't seen each other in a long time. Like you catching up, like on old times. You haven't seen each other in years. Yep. That's how it is, man. And why is that? Because hey, that's the spirit. That's the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Shai. And really, the reason why is that Aslaki, just to wrap up the explanation of the description. But basically, Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai, is true, because hey, one point or another, because there is a reincarnation. The Bible speaks about that, So it's like, hey, that it has truth to it, because hey, more than likely we did see each other at one point, and that's why we have such a close relationship, as brothers.
Yeah.
when you go to Ephesians 2:19, it's for you, Masha. Now, therefore, ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of Yahweh, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Yahweh Shah himself being the chief cornerstone.
Yep.
Whoever won it.
Yep, that's it. Yep. So that basically what I just said. You know, the scripture said itself. You know, that now we're fellow citizens. Now we're in the brotherhood. Now we're brothers once again. We reconcile with each other. You know.
Yeah, that's why it's like the brother was saying, the other brother was saying, when we talk to each other, when we deal with each other, it's like we just left off on a conversation from old and we pick it right back up. You know what I'm saying? That's why it ain't weird when we're around each other. It's crazy because some days when I see brothers, when we get together, even when me and the brother Kahan and we get together, it's just like that fraternity situation, because like we got a handshake. You know what I'm saying? We got a call, which is the voice of Yahweh Shem Shai.
Mm-hmm.
We got symbols that we only understand amongst each other. You know, we even got that's why I said that fraternity shit is nothing but pseudo. This is the real thing. I didn't type in what is a pseudonym for a pseudo, but real would be a pseudonym. This is the real brotherhood. You know what I mean? We got a lot of brothers that was in that pseudo fraternity life shit. You know what I mean? But then we came to the truth, and this is what feels more. This is more real than that. We got we got handshake. We won't be standing around dancing and hopping around and shit like that. But we deal with each other in a more fraternal way than these other organizations do. And it's the dichotomy, it's the contrast. You got the real, you got the fake, you got the pseudo, you got the real. So this is the real brotherhood, man. You know, and not anybody can come in here. And if somebody, you got perpetrators like in the fraternity world, you got dudes that be throwing on letters that they should not be having. They either dropped or they wanted to be in a part of the organization and they're not. And then the real person will see them like, whoa, no, but take them letters off. You ain't one of us. And we just had experience with that with this one dude. He got rebuked. I was like, I did a video called "Whose Man's Is This?" because he ain't one of us. You know what I mean? He perpetrated a fraud, say he was GMS. You know, no, brother, you ain't one of us, man. We don't know you, man. Take
Whose
them letters
is
off.
this?
Yeah, take that off because you didn't earn it. We earned it. We earning it. We're in the midst of earning it. We've earned it in the previous lives. So we've earned the opportunity to be amongst the elite of our people. And you just can't just show up one day and say, "Oh yeah, I'm part of y'all." No, you're not. You're gonna stand out like a sore thumb. And even if you able to slide up in there for a little bit, you have it to where you get exposed, you won't get exposed and get thrown out, man.
Hey, in the movie 300, there was a man who wanted to join the 300, and he wasn't allowed to join. I think he muted out.
It was it's feities or something like that.
Yeah. Now he wasn't allowed to join, but you know, I mean, they told him he couldn't, but they didn't push him, force him out of it, and you know. And so, if you want to try to jump in as if this is some type of double dutch, and you don't want to go through the proper process, don't be surprised when you get the looks that most people get when you would give somebody that just walks up to you in the middle of, I don't know, at a line in the convenience store or the supermarket and just starts talking to you and putting your groceries on where they, putting them up in the checkout, and they start, asking for your keys. You're going to eventually tell them, look, I don't know you, man. So we're kind and friendly brothers, for the most part, but after a portion of time, man, you're going to get the same treatment that Elder Manatazak gave that nigga that walked up on him the other day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're going to bark at you. Real quick, Titus 3 and 4. But after that, some people are going to ask, what right do we have to claim all of this? Like, because one thing about the Greek frats and sorors and Eastern Stars and Masonry and all of this. One thing about it is more visual. You got the concepts already laid down from George Washington on forward, maybe even farther back than that. The concepts is laid down. You got your heritages and whatever, the books that, you know, brother brought out, books that can back up some of the history involved with it. But this thing is a thing of faith, because our history book is right here. It's older than your history book.
Yeah.
And our truth is older than your truth. So that means our you know, what we resonate with is the origins. What you resonate with is the you know, the left hand side. You put on a garment that wasn't yours. You're basically you know, you're no better than this Amalek calling themselves Jewish by calling yourself, you know, I'm a Greek, this, that, and the third, or I'm a Mason, or you're putting on another man's thing. And ultimately, it's not, you know, just to take the fair out of it. It's just the left hand side, man. They doing what they doing for Satan. We doing what we doing for Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Titus 3:4 says, but after that, the kindness and love of Yahweh, our Savior, toward man appeared, not by works of righteousness which we have done, but according to his mercy he saved us. So our right to do this is that Yahushua died on the cross, symbolic, which was a atonement for sins. And he certain things were according to the rituals or laws of Israel. Certain things were allowed to be atonement for sins. All right, a sacrifice perfect enough for the Most High to be appeased with that, and those would take away our sins, which is something that can lead up to death if we didn't right that wrong. Right? Sin. What is it? How's it go? Sin is transgression of the law, and the wages of sin is death.
God.
And so you're supposed to die based on some of the sins you committed and transgressed, and the laws you transgressed. But because it says, but after the kindness and love of Yahweh our Savior toward man appeared. So our journey starts off with kindness and love, which is different than coveting. You know, the world will teach you how to covet. Well, you know, we got the mayor. That's what they grooming you. You know, you want to be the mayor. You want to be this, that, and the third. You know, you want to drive these nice cars. I know a way you can drive these cars. And brothers mentioned how, you know, y'all was basically groomed into the process. Even when I was dealing with my frat in college, it was more or less my boys was into it, and I just wanted to party. But once you get in there, you know, they attempt from that moment on to kind of groom you into a certain way of life. Like, listen, this is, and they give you important tips, like money tips. Just like Amalek, if you rub shoulders with Amalek good enough, he gonna give you some money tips. Hey man, you know, start a LLC. Stop taking your money. Stop putting your money into the bank. Use credit, and it's gonna sound amazing, right? But those tips lead up to what? It leads up to you to be more amazed at their information, so that you can find the source of it. And next, you want to climb the ladder. Now you want to climb up and see what else is down the rabbit hole. And ultimately, you're gonna meet him where they at. You're gonna meet the devil right where he at.
Meet Satan. You're gonna meet
Satan. Satan.
You're gonna meet Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're gonna have you do certain rituals that ain't gonna make no sense to you. You're gonna see skulls. You're gonna walk through the places at nighttime, right? You know, you're gonna divvy out secrets. You know, all for what? For whatever vainglory that you seem to be wanting, whatever, to find out how deep this thing goes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was gonna make a point real quick. Like the brother Mashal was speaking about, like you know, they have conclave, right? We call it, well, they call it, some other groups call it nationals. We call it a conclave as well. We had a conclave, and if you come into a fraternity and you're stuck on the base level of a fraternity, is all the partying, the hopping around, the sweating, the fucking on hoes. That's the base level. If you come in with, and a lot of dudes, they come in with that mindset, the base level. I just want to be seen with these letters on. I want to party.
Mm.
Them dudes, them type of dudes, they burn out. The ones that really make it in them organizations are the ones that go to conclave every year. I know that the elders yesterday were speaking about the dues and fees because it gets expensive the higher you get. The longer you stay in an organization, the more expensive it's going to become to you in both of these organizations. Especially like with masonry, when you move from one house to the next, you gotta stay up to date in your dues from the base level all the way to the highest level that you attain. So if you're a master mason, you got to be financial in the blue house, which it's called the blue house. Then you got the red house. Then you start to branch off in the Scottish Rite or the York Rite. I think the York Rite is the shortest one, but the Scottish Rite got the most houses. And you got to stay financial in all of these houses. And so again, if you come in an organization because of what you see, and that's the only reason why you up in there, you ain't gonna last long. You're gonna burn out, you're gonna drop out, you're not gonna be financial no more, you ain't gonna do none of that. Once you start going to conclave, then you start seeing the business side of the organization. They tell you things like now that I don't know if they told the brother Mashad this or you, brother, but they told me like, hey, the real pledging start when you become a member. Now the real pledging start because you pledging your life to this organization. That's why we got something called lifetime membership. These dudes go to every conclave. They're at every regional meeting because you got regional gatherings too. So then you got the local level, which is the your chapter, your grad chapter. Most people don't get past the undergrad chapter, bro. They know this, and that's why they got the capstone. The capstone is you got dudes that's fucking excuse my language. You got dudes that's vice presidents of on a national level, presidents on a national level, and they like up there. And so you already know that they jacked and juiced in. And I know dudes, when I came in the organization in 2004, I know dudes that was in the organization prior to me, maybe like a year or two prior to me. Now these dudes is the national president, national vice president, international vice president, international president. And I was like, man, I remember this dude, man. I remember he wasn't really like that, but he was one of them guys that stuck with the organization that might have graduated to masonry, because I know a lot of grooves that graduated to masonry sometime after they was a national member. And so you get up this high, you got to keep going. And then eventually you hit that ceiling. In any of these fraternity organizations, you hit a ceiling, which is the national level. That's why they go to Mason route. Now they can go even further. I got a dude I was cool with in the world. He moved to this island. He's my fraternity brother 2 times over. He was a groove brother, and he was a Mason brother, Masonic brother. And this dude, he went up way higher than I ever wanted that shit. He not far as the groove, but far as that masonry shit. He became a worshipful master. Everybody know this dude. He younger than me. You know what I'm saying? But he was shooting up the ladder. Why? Because he wanted to graduate and get higher and higher. Well, it's a thing called growing. Well, in the truth, we do the same thing. You got to grow into the truth. You can't, if you come in here on a base level, on a milk level, and you never mature past the milk level, you're going to become stagnant and you're going to fall out. Eventually, you're going to be separated. You got to grow in this faith. Like, you got the spirit where you rah, rah, rah. Then eventually you got to calm down, brother, because that spirit ain't useful for the ministry. You know what I'm saying? So you grow into a more mature brother, a more stable brother. But yet, as you still growing and as a stable brother, now you starting to move up. Now, hey, you starting to get ranked now. And you might be a camp head. You might be you might be second in command, third in command. Then eventually you might become camp head. Hey, the camp might get so big that they got to split. So now you a camp head of a particular camp, and you got the other camp head of the same camp. And then you starting to get more responsibility as you grow, and more things are asked of you. And you looking at the business side of the truth. What's the business? Maintaining. You got to maintain men. Hey, you got treasurers. You got you got to call brothers. You got to check up on brothers. Same thing like the elder said. Is they do it on the left hand side. We doing it on the right hand side. And we growing. And this is what you're meant to do. In any fraternal organization, if you really 100% in that organization, you're gonna grow past the party guy, which we call the chicken and bear brother. You know what I'm saying? And we know them chicken and bear brothers, they don't last too long, man. And they might be cool. Everybody like this dude, but hey, he just ain't for him, man, because he's not growing. So you have to grow in this truth. You know, just like they grow in the world, they grow on the left-hand side. Like you get past, I got a real quick clip I wanted to show, but this shows you grow past these other stuff that you see going on. Real quick, let me play this real quick. Oh, it's Satan.
Dr. Carlotta Miles has known Bertram Lee all his life. She's a renowned psychiatrist in Washington, D.C. Do you think most Americans have no clue that privileged, wealthy, well-connected Black people exist in decent-sized numbers? We're invisible. Why?
Because we don't match the stereotype. The stereotype for Black Americans is poverty, failure, victimization, and mediocrity.
These are great. Dr. Miles, a mother of 3, emphasizes success in her home with a family hall of fame. The hall is covered with photographs dating back to the 1850s.
That's my dad. And his
is exclusion. What they see is elitism.
most of us are tremendously active doing things for needy children as well.
You hear that?
That afternoon before the gala,
There are several Black cultures.
a day of seminars.
If I don't believe in myself, how can I convince you to be my girlfriend? How can I convince you to give me a job?
Get your report together.
What's the name of the video?
Exists
It's called CNN's Black in America 2, Black Upper Class.
in decent sized numbers.
I'm trying to see. She said something.
She's a renowned.
She said something, but I'm trying to find it. She said you don't have to be wealthy. You just have to be in. I'm just want to give me a second. I'm trying to find it.
The group.
Here it is, right here.
Black and you have
It's so hard to find that, especially like being out in the world.
to be black and you have to be wealthy.
You don't have to be wealthy. You just have to be a part of the group.
There it is. So you don't have to be wealthy. She claimed you don't got to be wealthy. She's a part of the boule, the big time boule. There's a whole swath. And remember, she said also too, they help a lot of poor kids, disadvantaged kids. Now, them poor kids don't get to go to these little soirees that they was throwing. And this dude Bertram, they did an update on this dude, man. They wanted this dude to be the next politician or the next, pretty much Barack Obama, and he had promise. And then now this dude, this dude is like a teacher at some university or some shit, overweight, single and shit, ain't got no business.
What probably happened behind the scenes is that they asked him to do certain things.
Yeah.
You know, because they had Kanye on Drink Champs the other day admit that, you know, I don't care what they got on me.
Yeah, the goat thing.
He said I don't care if they got video of me fucking a goat. Excuse my French. But, or why would he say that? That's,
he did
that's not just a random thought that came in his head. This is the initiations and the rituals of some of the higher up offices that even rappers and entertainers could fill. There's degrees and there's levels, and then there's rituals that come along with these degrees and levels.
Yep.
And which is why, real quick, and you know, Yahweh Shah spoke about certain not to make any vows and oaths and swear. It says Matthew 5:33, again, ye have heard that it hath been said by them of old, and thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is Yahweh's throne, nor by earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king, neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh evil. Because guess what? In that time too, you can devise from Yahushua's words that vows, men asking you to make a vow, was common practice. Well, vow on this. Will you do this? Well, vow here and vow now and vow. And this is something that elite organizations throughout the world practice: vows and rituals and customs that only the people at the top will administer to the people that's trying to be like them. So you can go ahead and join these organizations if you want to. Just understand that you just wearing a color, or you think it's about a certain color, it's about a certain party, it's about a certain brand. The brand that you see is not where it ends. It goes higher than that. There's levels, as the brother Gabar Yahweh is speaking on and showing the video as well. There's levels, and guess who might be at the top of that level? Edomite. Guess who might be at the top of that level? A woman. You're muted. You're muted out. And so, Masha, you want to say anything on this?
No, you got it, brother. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, I mean, just to land back off the other brother, Rapah, just was mentioning about, Jake, that, it basically gets to a certain point to where, like, your conscious, like they call it conscious, but it's just your spirit, basically, it gets to a certain point where, your spirit is like, nah, this is not it. You know what I mean? Or you see a lot that goes on behind closed doors, and and your spirit is telling you, like, hey, that this is not the way to go. And that's that internal battle that goes on, and basically, like, just what happened to him, his spirit, is like, oh man, this wicked, it's not what, this is not something I should be doing, and that's why, he's in the position that he's in right now. And like the elder brother Gabar Yahweh was saying, that you basically have to, keep up with your dues, you had to keep up with you had to be financially sound, so to speak. If you weren't, then you weren't gonna make it,
Nah.
There's no chance in hell that you was gonna get to that position up top.
So it's not free, Akim? It's not free?
Hell no, man. It's more expensive to maintain your life in that organization just to even get into it. I mean, what the initial fees to get in some of these organizations was at the time like between $1,500 or more. It's probably more than that in these other organizations. But then you talk about, that's just an entry fee. That's just to get to wear the letters and shit. Then you got to pay for you got regional dues, you got national dues. Man, that shit, come on, bro, man. And then don't be a Mason, bro. Oh my goodness, bro. You better have a great job, bro, because you're gonna be paying dues throughout all them houses, man. And that shit get expensive, bro. You know what I'm saying? And then you got your regular shit that you got going on, and you got these. Yeah, it is a big Ponzi scheme, because what are you getting out of it? I mean, it was I know with Groove 5 Groove, at one point they had to stop the lifetime membership for certain brothers, because a brother would be 1 year in and lifetime membership was probably like $500. He's like, oh shit, let me get that right now. So he ain't got to pay no more dues for the rest of his life. And they was like, no, they had to stop that shit. So because Jake want to take advantage, but then it gets more expensive, man. And then not only that, you got dues, then you got community service events. That shit costs money. It ain't like the organization kick down money to each chapter for to do this stuff. This reason why you got a treasurer. This reason why they have fundraisers like parties and car washes and shit like that. All that shit costs money, man. And like the brother said, the elder brother Masha said, ain't nothing but a big ass pyramid, man. hey, what my man George Carlin said, it's a one little club, and you ain't in it, man. You think you're in it, but you ain't in it, bro. And like I fell out of love with that shit like about 2007, I started falling out of love with that whole fraternity bullshit, bro. I was like, I went to my first conclave was when I first went over in 2004, and that shit was a movie. It was a fuck fest. Excuse my language. It was a freak fest. It was business, and I was taking it too personal, and I knew I was like, okay, I can't do this. This ain't for me. I thought it was real, but then I saw the politics, because that's something you got to get with too. You got a lot of politics, bro. You got to vote for certain members. If you don't vote for certain members in nationals and they don't get in, hey, guess what? They're gonna hold that against you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's go beyond the scope of just wearing letters. Anybody can wear letters. Anybody can show up to a barbecue or show up to a line or probate. You know, I did all of that, and I was out, and like the elder brother of my shop, I was enamored about all of that. Like when I forgot about school. I was like, I want to be a Kappa. I want to be a Q dog. I was like, you know what? I just want to do what they doing, because it gets you hype, you get you excited, and that's the it's called the bait and switch. They throw that bait to you, right? Oh, you gonna get women. Oh, you gonna have letters on, and people not everybody can be in these organizations. So because it's so exclusive, women are attracted to exclusivity. Oh man, he's one of them. You get them chicks that they just want to take down every frat. You got a chick that she got a whole book. She done knock down all the Qs. She want to knock down all the alphas. She want to knock down this guy, that guy. And even if they see that these organizations are taking a liking to you, guess what? Here come the hoes, because they like, oh, he's next up. You know what I'm saying? So for them, it's just another notch in their belt. I don't even want my daughter to go to college. She 18. I don't want to go. I told her this morning. I was like, look, man, you not got to go to college. You good with hair. You can go to cosmetology school and get you a little trade degree. I don't want my daughter to be slutted and turned out, because I know that's what college is going to do to your daughters, man. I'm sorry, brother. You got it.
No, I was going to ask both of y'all brothers, is that what happens to these women when they go to college?
Oh,
hell yeah.
Man.
Hell yeah. Hell motherfucking yeah. Bro, I was at universities, and I wasn't even in the college, and I was popping them. I was in the Army. I was in Virginia State University, took it down. Prairie View A&M University, took it down. Grambling State, I'm going to give a quick synopsis of Grambling State. I know Grambling like the back of my hand. You'd have thought that I was a student at Grambling State University, man. That's how raw it was at these black colleges, especially HBCUs. That shit should be called Hope Black College University, because these chicks will give it like it ain't nothing. I mean, it's just what it is, brother.
Yeah.
It's like, and they don't count that lifestyle. I mean, they don't count that 4-year span in their sexual repertoire or book. It's just a blip. It was the whole phase. You know what I'm saying? I had a chick stalk.
It was college.
Down. I had a chick stalk me down in a party of over 400 people. She found me. She liked my story. This is 2004. She liked my story, November 2004ish. And I didn't even think about old girl. I was a little drunk and buzzed up. I'm having fun at the party. All I seen her, she changed her clothes. She was like, look, I ain't no hoe, but I know what I want when I see it. And I want you. She took me back to her crib in her car. I had my way with her. And then her boyfriend was banging on her door for 2 hours trying to get in. I didn't know she had a boyfriend. She said that's her friend. But this nigga didn't leave until 6 o'clock in the morning. He stopped banging on the door.
Yeah.
And that's like, this is what they do. It's a bunch of adultery, bro. And it's a bunch of bullshit. I ain't saying this because I'm proud of it. I ain't proud of none of that shit. If I could take it back, I would. But the point of the matter is that these colleges are nothing more than sifting grounds for your children and indoctrination grounds for your children, especially for your daughters, because women, they built to receive information. This is the reason why more black women go to colleges than black men. Why? Because they sit there, they receive all this indoctrination. They think that they know every damn thing. They get all these degrees, but the whole time they might get a degree in biology, but really they getting a degree in dickology, man, hoology, man, adulterology, man. And it's not a place where true brotherhood, true spirituality, true knowledge and wisdom and understanding is being pushed forward. It's a bunch of wickedness, man.
It's a place where your flesh can just be overwhelmed with all the lustful pleasures that you ever desired. And it's like the spirit of Bacchus is dwelling amongst these campuses, especially it's fueled by the Greek life. It's even fueled. It's like the college is already going to be, a lust session. Everybody's just left they just left the grasp of their parents ruling over them. For the first time, you have some type of freedom.
Yep.
You got freedom and then you congregate in one mass place where everybody at the same time got the same amount of freedom that they might have never had before.
Mm-hmm.
And then and that's the kerosene on it. But then you light the match with what is Greek culture,
boom,
and it ignites. And now you have Bacchus, Saturnalia mixed in with Freaknik and all of the above. I got a quick precept. Ephesians 4:14, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about. And anyone who wants to add to this, you go ahead. That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness. And I wanted to speak on that for a second. Ultimately, men run the world. This whole idea that women are running things, you run because you have a house, because you have children that occupy that house, and there's no man in sight. Never get it confused. You run that household. You don't run the world. Women aren't running the world. Never have, never will be. Not according to prophecy, not according to history. So when we're talking about the sleight of men, even the situation in which you go to school and the attraction, the allure to school, we're talking about the mesmerizing effect of Greek life, Greek frats. How about the mesmerizing effect of colleges in itself? For men, it's women.
Yep. It's because the women outnumber the men at these universities and colleges. Sometimes you go to the South, it might be like 7-1. You know what I mean? Especially at a black university or so-called historically black college. These colleges, it's more women up there today. That's why that lesbian shit be flowing big time up there, because there ain't a lot of men up there. And then what happened? They get with Thug Nificent and Thug Brown that's hovering around a university, up there for homecoming. Homecoming might be one of the biggest slut fests on the planet Earth, man. Yeah. Real talk, because you got people from different walks of life coming up there. You got people that used to go to the university, people that's visiting the university, people that's currently going to the university. You know what I'm saying? And so you got a lot of that going on. And so, yeah, if you want to get your sex game up, if you're a young man and you vibrant, you want to get your sex game up, just go to college. Go to college, and I guarantee you're gonna be the man on campus. Why? Because it ain't a lot of y'all up there. It's more like I used to look at the the contrast of Spelman University and Morehouse University. This is an all-girl college versus an all-male college. You know what kind of wickedness is going up in them dorms, bro? You know what I'm saying? They going back and forth with each other, and then you got all males doing the same thing with each other, all females doing the same thing, they all pent up, they ready to bust up in there. You know what I mean? Like, it's not one of them places. College, I wanted to say this. I can't find this clip. I saw it a minute ago, but this woman, her name was she was a writer, a prolific black laureate, and I want to say it was Toni Morrison. And Toni Morrison went to Howard University, and they asked her, what was your experience like at Howard University? And she's like, oh my God, I was such a big whore. And this was like during a time when you thought college was, tamed. You show black and white photos of the black woman with the skirt on, sitting there on the university lawn, taking these pictures, and they got their books, and you think that they all up there just getting their book on and their education on. No. They've been doing this shit since them colleges were formed, bro. Turning it into it was a bust down fest back then. It's just like it's a bust down fest now. They just did it with a little more class, so they say, and it really wasn't no class. It was just under the guise of modesty.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, mind you, like the brother said, the elder said, these kids were leaving their households, strict households, where you had to, back then you had to be chaperoned to be with a man or a woman. Back then, your mama and your daddy was constantly around, so you couldn't do no hunching. So now you send kids off to school, you paying for their university. The least they can get is a degree, but what else are they getting up there? They're being indoctrinated with Satanism, homosexuality, lesbianism, free love, drugs, alcohol. Because these are kids that are being at parties. They're not being monitored by the staff and faculty at night.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
there's a lot of social engineering as well that goes on these campuses. Without a doubt, they're being ran by these campuses on Mason training grounds. They're being ran essentially by Masons, and a lot of what you call it, like social engineering, happens at the collegiate level. And that article or that video that I played earlier is called "Who Rules America? The Elite People and Institutions That Control America."
Yeah. And
then there was showing you how they, basically take a Jake from out of the hood if he got some promise to him, if he has some, some ways about him that might be they can cultivate maybe into your next politician. Just to have, because when you become an older man in this society and all you have to brag about is what you did in the past, even in the world, amongst Jake, what you did before doesn't hold no weight. What you doing now, everybody wants to know. But if you're that older male, let's say you're an older Edomite male, and you're responsible for pulling the Barack Obama into a presidency, that's something to boast about now at the old country club. It just becomes more ways to boast. So, you took a kid from the ghetto and then you put him in your program, and now he's the head of so-and-so NAACP. And Jake is sitting there simple, once again, thinking like, wow, we made it. We made it. Yeah. But who made him?
Yeah.
You come to find out that's what Masonry's been doing in this country the whole time. That's what all of these organizations, these secret societies have been doing, and the whole time is taking Jake and creating him and molding him to be certain type of people in fashion. But at the end of the day, his loyalty is not to you. His loyalty is the person who crafted him to be like that.
Yeah.
His loyalty is the group that allowed him to come out of the projects to the private school.
Yeah.
And his loyalty is to basically he belonged to the Masons the whole time. He belonged to the elites the whole time. That's why, but the Boule the whole time. And that's why Ephesians 4:14 to say, hence that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro. The child is the one who you could train up to do whatever the hell you want to do. He's not going to see an adult scheme as it's playing out. He's not going to see that. That's why we was all sitting in the church at 6, 7, 8 years old talking about Jesus loves me, because we ain't see the schemes. We ain't know about the how they whitewash these images from years ago. Even the adults in our lives was telling us to go ahead. This is what you're supposed to do. But we know we are henceforth no more children. So now you have a duty and an obligation to get out of that childlike mind and childlike estate. You got to see through college. The brother just mentioned all of the debauchery that goes on throughout the colleges to schools. You got to see through what the Greek is. It's not just a place to get easy access to women and drugs and clubs.
Parties and clothes.
That's not what that's what it is on the very surface level. You got to start looking into things. You got to start researching. You got to start studying up on what these things actually are and stop making these childish decisions. That's what children do. They see candy and they grab it. They see a cookie, they grab it. They see this and they grab at it. And then come to find out they're getting their beatings later for it, because that's what children do. They get in trouble all the time. They attempt to kill themselves. They go and touch the fan and chop their hands off. They'll go and touch the hot stove and burn their shit. And says toss to and fro. and carry it about with every wind of doctrine. You could just see it on a mental level. That's where our people is. Imagine just a mall, right? Imagine Black Friday. That's America in a nutshell. Black Friday. Every day in America is Black Friday. Their minds. What deal is going on here? What deal? What can I be now? What can I be? You know, America just feeding you. Do you want to try to do this in your life? Would you like to have a Ford Escort? You know, what? Yeah. How would you like to be in Barbados right now for the winter vacation? But it's advertisement for your lifestyles. They advertise for your lifestyles. Even though they sell you little commercials about, you know, try this, but it's the advertisement is for the American dream. Every one of these advertisements was his car, right? Yeah, so that's what's going. It says, by every wind of doctrine, by sleight of men, and slight means cunning. That extra cunningness. When you talk about sleight of hand, that's a very subtle twitch in the hand where they could take a card right in front of your face and just fruit.
Yeah, there's in the NIV version, it says, "Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of people and their deceitful schemes."
Damn.
You know, we learn that these fraternities and these sororities, these organizations, they're nothing more than deceitful schemes. These colleges, they're nothing more than deceitful schemes. They deceive you into becoming debtors into the society. They deceive you into believing into the ideals and the philosophies of the society. They deceive you by these cunning schemes to get you enamored by the pomp and circumstances that they have. You know, for a long time, we believed that if we went to college, we could make something of ourselves. Now the college scheme is up. It's nothing but a debt hole, and that you can become something beyond without college. You know what I'm saying? These organizations, you need to network. One of their biggest schemes is networking. You come into this organization and you network. But wait a minute, you can network without this organization. You can network with people in this organization without even being a part of this organization. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, but we're grown in the spirit now that we won't be tossed to by every wind and doctrine. Can't nobody tell us that the one you call Jesus, his name is Yahushua, is a so-called white man, and I'm a fly with that, and through him I can receive repentance. Nah, can't nobody tell me I'm a black man and that I'm an African man or that I'm a Greek. I don't know if you remember that movie School Days where he's like, I am a Greek. I don't play that shit. I'm from Motown. So you can watch your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to. You know, and why was he saying that? Because that's like, take Africa out the equation and put an Israelite. That's what Jake be on. I am a Greek. That's like Timothy father. He's Big Brother Almighty. You know what I'm saying? And now you see that we're not tossed through with every wind and doctrine. Greekdom, Hellenization was a wind of doctrine that took our people away from their nationality as Israelites. Right. And you thought that by joining, looking at the elite, because it was the elite of our people that got the poor of our people to follow them. That's why Antiochus Epiphanes and the rest of those Roman emperors that came after him, they enticed the wealthy of our people who could influence our people. Same thing they're doing today with every wind and doctrine, having them following them, leaving their nationality and going off into sin and iniquity. Well, now that we've been returned back to Yahweh Shem Shai, we are no longer tossed to and fro with every wind of doctrine and everybody's cunning schemes, because we know the truth. Slocky. You got it, brother.
These are all great points, man. You get to a point where, you know, the Lord just sustains us. He quickens us. And I was looking for in the background that picture with Kyrie Irving that brothers have. I found it. Here we go. Let me just pull this up, man. Because once you in Babylon, this is the general practices of waking up. This is how it looks in real time. Let me just show y'all, brothers. Our brothers can see that, right?
Oh yeah, I seen that.
Oh yeah. recently. That's how they did him, man. That's just how the fuck they did him, man. They hung this man up to dry. Well, they did the same thing to Kanye. You know what I mean? They took this man, well,
Nick
right.
Cannon.
Nick Cannon, but Nick Cannon, he got in early enough where they was able to get his goodies back. But these Kyrie, he's ready to retire, and they're not gonna make Kanye West a billionaire again. They replaced Kanye West with P. Diddy. You know what I'm saying? So they're not gonna make that nigga a billionaire no more. He told you that these Amalekites own and operate everything on a high level in this world, and nobody believed them. And then these Amalekites showed you that they really do. Adam said, why is there all the black capable so-called black or Latino men that play in the NBA that are capable of running general day-to-day operations in the NBA? Why do they keep putting up an Amalekite over them? To show you that they're the ones that hold the whip. And then all these Uncle Toms and these Sambos, they turned their back on this man. You know what I'm saying? And they hung him out to dry because they're scared of this devil. You got it, brother.
Hey, but in also recent news, right? And also recent news, Shaka Atmos most cut his lock.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And I'll say this, that's a sign of the end of Hotep, the end of that what you call it, you know, that Ma'at or whatever Kemet movement, you know, because that was big. They held it down for all these years, and that was another wind of doctrine by the sleight of man. It sounded great, man. They painted that picture amazing. I remember at one point they asked him, "What is that lock for?" And he's like, he took that so serious, that damn lock, and then he just chopped it off.
Oh, he had 100%.
But you know that whole yeah, but he was definitely into that world. He was in that world. That's that Kemet world, just like the Greek world. If you really truly want to be a Greek, you got to go. What's the Greek? Oh, eventually, the apex of what the Greeks is doing, the top practices and rituals of the elites go into what Aleister Crowley calls sexual magic. You know, and at the end of the day, you know, whether you know it or not, you're going to get involved with some sexual magic. That's why Kanye was referencing, you know, I don't care if they got me on camera fucking to go. You know, and we think it's all shameless and parties on the outside looking in. It's just parties and dancing. That's a cool dance. I like that. We even imitate it because that's the flesh. They know Satan has done his job at figuring out what exactly is going to make these niggas tick. These niggas going to love it. They used to put it on every show. Martin, all these colleges. Bill Cosby was he's the top aficionado of all of these jakes going to these HBCUs and colleges, because every episode of the Cosby Show back then, that's what they did. They rocked that apparel, colleges, Morehouse, this, that, Spelman, and they got jakes really excited about going down there. And what did they do? They went down there in masses and drones, and then turned into freaks and sodomites, man. And debt slaves for sure.
Because niggas wasn't in college like that in the 80s like that. Like, I mean, prior to the 80s, prior to that, a different world. They even said a different world booted up black HBCU college attendance, all because people watched that show and they said, I wanted that college experience, man. And the college was nothing like that, bro. College was man, that shit was a fucking waste. I don't know if you had any more questions about
just share what you want, because I ain't gonna lie,
you got it, brother.
We probably give never, be here another 10.
Whatever. But I just like it's just a waste of time and money, man. You know, at the end of the day, I was chasing that degree, and then I was like, I thought that it was gonna change my life when I got this degree. My friends graduated ahead of me and all this other stuff, and I went to the army and shit, and then I got paid to go to school once I got out of the military, and I got a degree, and now that I got that shit, and that shit's sitting on the floor, bro. It don't mean nothing. It don't mean shit. I'm not saying they won't help you in certain fields of life in this world, but at the end of the day, it help you. It do a disservice to you more than it do a hindrance to you more than it does, a positive thing for you. You know what I'm saying? Ecclesiastes 7:12, for wisdom is a defense and money is a defense, but the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. Yeah, because money don't give you life. Wisdom will give you life to those that have it. And you ain't gonna get no wisdom out of them colleges and universities, man. You ain't gonna get no wisdom from joining these fraternal organizations and thinking that you're doing something. If you were a part of that, it was a shell moment in your life. And if you were in this brotherhood, it was a precursor to you being in this brotherhood. That's all it is, and it's nothing more. It's not worth shit. It's not worth it wasn't worth the pain. Right. I think the elder brothers, Elder Adama, he had mentioned about getting wood. I went through something called the Century Club, man, and I fucked my butt up, the skin on my butt up, because I went through some bullshit thinking that it was something to be a part of. Letting some niggas slap me in my ass with a goddamn paddle, which that shit come from slavery. That shit ain't got nothing to do with being in this organization and becoming a full-fledged member. It was just bullshit. Drunk antics. Simplicity. You know what I'm saying? I got I got a fucking scar my skin for life for some dumb shit. And then the nigga that did it, he didn't even want to get the nigga that did the brand. He didn't even get a brand, bro. He was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, man, like it was bullshit. I counted all dung for Yahweh Shai's sake, man. At the end of the day. So that's all I got to say about that.
Final thoughts, Masha?
Yeah, like the elder brother Gabar Yaldo saying, man, it's not worth it, man. At the end of the day, it's not worth it. It's not worth the time, the energy, the pain, the blood, the sweat, and tears that you thought it was gonna, benefit you in one way or another, man. It really doesn't, man. It doesn't. Because once you get into it, really, a lot. I mean, now as of 2022, a lot of people are now seeing what's going on, as far as like, them and they're having jobs and stuff like that, and what's required of you to even get in certain positions. They're figuring out like, oh man, you don't, it really at this point, people they realizing now it's just a money grab. That's all it is. Like the biggest one of the biggest financial institutions in America is the educational system, right beside the pharmaceutical industry. And there's a reason behind that, because they sell you a dream. You go to college, and do, basically get your degree and everything. And, and most of the people that go there, they come out, next thing you know, they working at McDonald's or something, or Burger King, and they don't really, they end up working retail,
That shit's terrible, bro. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, man, yeah, but they sold them that dream, like, hey, you go to college, you get your dream job, and most of the time you don't end up with your dream job. You end up working somewhere else, doing fuck all, excuse my French, but doing something that you weren't thinking about doing, you'll end up with hey, you know what? That's why people are up in arms about student loans. You got these thousands on top of thousands of dollars in loans that you got to pay, and if you don't, man, they'll hound you down for it, and that's why they're making such a big push now to try to do away with student loan, because people are getting messed up by student loans alone, by themselves.
$100,000 in debt, $100,000 plus in debt after you get out of school. And you got to pay that shit back immediately, man.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fucked up. Like, you ain't even got no career off the ground yet. Most people get liberal arts degrees, bullshit degrees that don't mean nothing. And then they're expected to pay $100,000 loan back. Bro, that's like over $3,000 a month at a high interest rate. So yeah, no, it's all bullshit. College was a scam. College was there's a good documentary on YouTube, and it speaks about how the loan industry got its Sallie Mae, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac got they stand up from the U.S. government. At one point, the U.S. government college cost about $1,000 a year, so your parents could save up $4,000 and it could pay you through college. Then they started getting loans from the government to because it wasn't enough money for the schools to exist. So then they were like, oh, wait a minute, this is good. This is a good scheme. So they start robbing people, man, and because the government ran out of money sending people to college. So they oversaturated the market when they started introducing these different Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans to people to go to school. So the cost of living went up, cost of loans and interest went up, but salaries remained at a steady rate. So people couldn't pay that shit back because people were doing when the government was giving you loans, they were paying that shit back. $4,000 was nothing for them people back then in the 50s and the 60s. It was a lot of money, but families were able to pay it back. And they were like, wait a minute, they paying these loans back too quick. And then the government's running out of money. So then they give it to them Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, or Sallie Mae. And so, yeah, it's just one big financial scheme, bro. And if only reason why I would tell a person to go to school if they were paying you to go to school, i.e. you were in the military and you get that GI Bill, they're going to pay you a couple $1,000s a month to go to school, then go ahead and do it. And that was incentive for me to get the degree because I was like, I want to keep getting paid. So once you know what I mean? But if they're not paying you to go, what's the use? And now you got all this shit, we live in an information age where all the same information is available on YouTube, on different websites. You can literally get certified with any damn job online without leaving the comfort of your own home at your own pace. And now you got these for-profit schools like the University of Phoenix. I went to that school. You know, that's where I got this bullshit degree from for IT. Come to find out, you don't even need a degree to get into IT. You just need to get some damn certifications, and then you in there like swimwear. You know what I mean? But the process of it is so they can make money. They still send me emails to this day trying to get me to come back into school so they can get some more money from me and want me to go into debt and do it. I'm not going to do it. It ain't worth it. And once these young kids start to see that it's not worth it, more people going to pull back from these universities. These universities are nothing more, like the elder said, it's nothing more than a money grab. That's all it is. They even go to these HBCUs that people tout so much, and the fucking food is trash. The food is garbage. The housing, the residential housing is trash. Okay, security is trash. They got these kids sleeping in filthy, mold-infested dormitories. Their meat and their food is old. Yeah, look at this. It says up, and away. The average tuition fees and room and board at a four-year institution is in currency dollars. So it used in the 1980s, it was $5,000. Coming to 2008, I think that's the last number on there. Maybe 2009, $40,000, man. 2010, 40, and it's more than that now. It's more to tuition and fees. They go up each year, and that's at the lowest institution. So now it's like, come on, bro. People are like, nah, I'm not doing. And then they make it mandatory that you got to stay on them dormitories the first 2 years. I think it's like the first year. You know what I mean? So they robbing these students, man, and they ain't getting shit for it, but a piece of paper that you can forge yourself. You can literally, when I was in the military, people were forging degrees so they can get promoted in the military, man. I mean, they got on it because but it ain't worth it, man. America is one big scam. Everything about this shithole place is a scam. From these fraternities, sororities, to these colleges and these goddamn universities, man. So if you ain't got nothing else, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you got to finish it on that one right there.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
I mean,
that's it right there.
no, we just want Jake to understand the seriousness involved. You're gonna be in debt. That's number one. Going to college, you're gonna be in debt. All right, regardless of how good your job is. And school is not for enlightenment, it's for employment. So you're not gonna be enlightened on who you are. You're gonna miss all of that. They're gonna start history class with Western civilization, hands down. I don't care if it's at HBCU or not. All right. And most importantly, what we're getting into with these brothers is qualified to speak on because they lived it. These Greek fraternities ain't nothing but lower, lesser illuminary lesser Illuminati setups, man. You know, to introduce you to the ways and the customs of occult lifestyle, where you can vow, you can do rituals to get ahead in life, but you better pay the price. But you're gonna pay the price, especially with Yahweh Shem Yahushua. You know, but other than that, you know, we're gonna call it. You know, Lord willing, this video was edifying. Of course, it's, you know, and you could let these brothers know what you think. Gabar Yahweh, your channel is
GMS Hawaii Ba.
Masha.
GMS Common Sense.
God, and both of these brothers is Aquania, they elders. All right, so yeah, we want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well over the flock. Shalom and salutation, brothers out here who's pushing the truth and sincerity, and shalom to all the Akim and Aqua paying attention. Scattered Israelites abroad. Lord willing, this is edifying. Till next time, DTA above above. Shalom.
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 Hold tight.
All right,